Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. Every hate group in history has believed that their particular brand of hatred is backed up and justified by science. For example, in 1921, the American Association for the Advancement of Science featured eugenics at their annual meeting. Their address of welcome included these terms: race character and betterment, vigorous movement of race hygiene. Another term for race hygiene is ethnic cleansing. This belief system was behind the Ku Klux Klan and the German National Socialists. The Nazis were particularly impressed by mainstream American academic science. Hateful people are going to hate, but when they believe their hatred is backed up by science, this makes them particularly enthusiastic. Fast forward to this week when climate realist Pat Michaels died. Pat was the former climatologist of the state of Virginia and a leading climate academic. He devoted the last few decades of his life to fighting climate disinformation. But the truth isn't what professional climate propagandists want to hear. The Daily Kos published this article dancing with glee about his death. They said, "It's never a good look to go dancing on a grave, so please forgive any subtextual glee you may pick up here." As we report the bad for his family, good for everyone else news that career climate disinformation peddler Dr. Patrick J. Michaels died last week. And then they went on to claim that he'd been lying about the climate because he was being paid by oil companies. This is an incredibly ugly, unethical, and nasty piece of writing by someone whose heart is obviously full of hatred. And the reality is that Pat Michaels chose to forego a lot of money in order to fight climate disinformation being spread by organizations like the Daily Kos. There is massive amounts of money being spent to get academics to spread propaganda about an imaginary climate emergency. Pat Michaels didn't take that money because he preferred to tell the truth. My good friend Dr. Bill Gray from Colorado State University passed away 6 years ago. He was considered the world's leading tropical meteorologist and the person who invented modern hurricane forecasting. Dr. Gray received money every year from NOAA for decades for his hurricane research. But in 1993, when Al Gore became vice president, things changed. Al Gore invited Dr. Gray to a global warming meeting he was holding in Washington, D.C. Dr. Gray said he would be happy to attend, but Gore should know that he's not a big fan of Gore's global warming theories. After that, Dr. Gray got blackballed and never received another penny of funding from the United States government. I would walk the halls of the Atmospheric Sciences Department at Colorado State University with Dr. Gray. Bill was the friendliest person I ever met, but many people there wouldn't even look at him as he walked past because he was a threat to their funding for telling the truth. Dr. Gray was a giant of a man and a man of exceptional integrity. He never gave in to Al Gore's extortion and refused to take dirty climate propaganda money. Al Gore, on the other hand, comes in at the other end of the ethics spectrum.
Branson is pledging future profits from his airline to the tune of perhaps $3 billion. $3 billion, that's with a B, to fight global warming.
Is Al Gore a prophet? How'd you spell profit?
Global warming is a massive industry with huge financial benefits for those willing to spread propaganda. We can be pretty certain that Daily Kos is receiving a lot of money to spread propaganda themselves. And like every other hate group in history, they use junk science as an excuse for their own bad behavior and hatred. I'm not in climate academia, but telling the truth has proven to be very expensive. I've lost a half dozen jobs and contracts from companies who didn't want to be associated with a climate denier. Telling the truth about climate has cost me at least $1 million in lost opportunity cost. I don't receive any funding for telling the truth about climate. We depend on small engineering contracts and donations from our readers and viewers. But as you can see, the rewards for telling the truth and having a generous heart are very high. You can visit us on the web at realclimatescience.com.